Here's an old Atari tape deck that I'm trying to get working again for a friend. Atari 1010. It's a tape drive, I should say. It's to connect to the old Atari 8-bit computers. Cut the back off here. In fact, I had that circuit board out a little bit ago. You can see the belt down in there. The belt's actually still intact after all these years, and it seems to run the mechanism okay. So I'm going to go ahead and try to run it. From what I find online, this port needs 9 volts AC, and I don't have a 9 volt AC adapter to put into this. I could use a variac maybe. But what I thought of is I dug through my pile of junk and I got this guy, which is 9 volts DC, 1000 milliamps, and I figure that this should be just a transformer with a rectifier inside. So if I unrectify it, I have a pretty good chance of getting a 9 volt AC source, maybe a little higher, maybe 10, but that should be okay. So I'm trying to get it apart. I got the 2 screws out of here, but the thing is still glued together. So I've been trying to get this out with an X-Acto knife, but I don't think that's going to go. So I'm going to have to cut this with a Dremel, cut it all the way around this seam, probably this back seam, and then pop it apart and see. So I've done this trick before on other less critical equipment, but hopefully that works. Well, it's getting there. I'm bandsawing this thing apart using this old chop saw, just kind of using it as a bandsaw. So I've got 3 sides of it apart, 1 more to go, and then it's definitely glued, so I'll break this off and we'll see what happens. All right, here it is apart. I was able to get it off of here, and it's kind of ugly, but actually the existing screw holes will still work, it looks like. So it is just a transformer, and it's connected to this PC board here. Let's see, yep, here. And I suspect those are the rectifying diodes right there and the smoothing cap. So I think if I bypass those, I should have 9 volt AC straight out of the transformer. Okay, here we go. So I have it now plugged into this power strip, and you can see it's just sort of decapped. And what we're going to try to do is look for the voltages on this circuit board. And so let's go over this little diagram real quick. Sorry for my bad handwriting. If this is the AC source, this is coming out of the transformer. It goes through this thing called a bridge rectifier, which is simply 4 diodes configured like this. And if you put AC in on one side, when the AC goes high over here, it puts power to this plus side, and when it goes high on the other side, it puts power to the plus side also. So this, in effect, creates DC. So it goes from a sine wave to something that looks like this little lumpy thing. And if you put a capacitor across here, then that starts smoothing this out. So what we're going to try to do is try to find this AC source of the DC output. So now that we know sort of how this looks and what to look for, we look under here, and you can see that there's the 4 diodes underneath here. There's the DC output here, and then the other ends of the diodes happen to be attached across some stuff that's under this hot melt glue, but I've kind of scraped it off, and the 2 points I think are going to be important. So if we turn this on, and I put my meter over here in DC mode, DC, I can first measure, well, I can measure here. So I can put the ground here and measure here, and I get 12.67 volts. Oh, I have the red in the wrong spot, doesn't matter. Kind of high for 9, but that's because it's unloaded. There's no voltage regulator on this. So again, I can also do it here. There's the same voltage. Oops, I'll do it the right way this time there, 12.66 volts. So unloaded, this thing puts out way more than 9, but once you put a load on it, it should drop down. Again, it's unregulated. So the other thing I want to do now is I'll try across the other sides of the resistors on my diagram. So I need to put this on AC now. And if I put my probe here and my probe there, lo and behold, I got 9.6 volts AC. So this is what I'm looking for to drive that little Atari tape deck thing there. So what I'll do now is I'll solder a couple wires across here, and then I'll hook it up to a similar connector for this, and then that should give us 9 volts AC coming straight out of this without disturbing. We'll have both. We'll have a dual purpose power supply, one for AC, one for DC, and we'll try to plug it into that Atari thing over there and see if it works. All right, so here's my just cheap experiment here. I made the 9 volt AC on this, just a piece of cable, soldered this into here. I didn't want to commit to a long piece of wire before I did that. And we can check that this is correct. So here I'm AC again. That goes in there. I got this little adapter thing. And yeah, got my 9.7 volts. And I put this back together because the belt, everything looked okay. I labeled this 9 volts AC just so somebody would remember. Plug that there, and it works. Forward and rewind. So you eject this. Let's put this tape in. Let's see if we can rewind this tape. This tape that came in it, Encounter by Synapse Software, Richmond, California. I don't know what that's a game or what that is. Probably a game. So rewind, and there it goes. So it looks like it works. Stop. The belt's spinning a little bit there. But it is working. Maybe it needs a new belt. Now, play doesn't work because I think it needs a signal from the computer to actually tell it to go, probably when it's synced up. So that is probably the one difference between this and just any old other tape player. But I'm pretty happy with that. So give it to my friend and see if he can actually play some games on this thing. Here it is all back together. I just used the existing screws, and so it holds good, and then I just covered up the seam with just some blue tape just so you can't hold in there. I added a nice long cable, labeled everything, so we can stick this guy in here. And rewind. Advance. Play. No play, of course.
I just loaded an Atari basic programming language program called Race. Indianapolis Speed Trials. Speed Demons Wanted. Are you willing to give a try? I click, type Y, return, press N to go left, M to go right, space to go straight. What am I doing? What? Encounter by Synapse Software, a company that made one of my favorites, Seamus. Let's start and see how this goes. Oh, it's kind of like Battlezone. Is that a tree? Oh, I think I hit something. I got 200 points for it. Yay. Yay me.